Okay, he basically was there before the universe began. Okay, is he God? What's up everyone, welcome back to another video. As always, my name is Orlando Martel and this is Martel Dynamics. Today we're going to read chapter 7 of the Fellowship of the Ring, which is In the House of Tom Bombadil. Last chapter we read about the old forest, we met this Tom Bombadil character. I was confused because we didn't get a lot of an introduction to this character, but from the comments that you guys left me, I think it's a very interesting character and very maybe flamboyant. So let's see. This seems like a short chapter, so we should be able to get on with it pretty fast. So let's see what happens. Let's go. Okay guys, so I read like 5 or 6 pages. In my mind, in the last chapter, we left off where they weren't in Tom Bombadil's house yet, but they were like looking at it, right? Now they are walking towards the house, and I don't know what to say without actually reading the description, but everything is like magical. As I understand it, things are floating. There is a woman that seems magical. I'll read to you the introduction paragraph or something of this chapter. It says, "The 4 hobbits stepped over the white stone threshold and stood still, blinking. They were in a long, low room, filled with the light of lamps swinging from the beams of the roof, and on the table of dark polished wood stood many candles, tall and yellow, burning brightly. In a chair at the far side of the room, facing the outer door, sat a woman. Her long yellow hair rippled down her shoulders. Her gown was green as young reeds, shot with silver like beads of dew, and her belt was of gold, shaped like a chain of flag lilies, set with the pale blue eyes of forget-me-nots. About her feet, in a wide vessels of green and brown earthenware, which I don't know what it is, white water lilies were floating, so that she seemed to be enthroned in the midst of a pool." They get to this house, right? Tom Bombadil haven't gotten here yet. He's like getting the horses to, or no, they weren't with horses. He was, I don't know what he was doing, but he hadn't come in, and everything is kind of weird. They ask this woman like respectfully, "Hey lady, who is Tom Bombadil?" And her answer is something like, "He's the master. Tom Bombadil is the master of all things." She says, "He is the master of wood, water, and hill." Is he another wizard? Does he has powers? It's like he's the boss there, you know what I mean? I don't know if by that she means that he owns that land, but that's not correct because Frodo literally asked that question and she says no. Frodo says, "Then all this strange land belongs to him?" Logical question. She says, "No indeed," she answered, and her smile faded, which is like a reaction as if his question is evil or bad intention, which obviously it was not, but it's like she feels scared all of a sudden. "That would indeed be a burden," she added in a low voice, as if to herself. "The trees and the grasses and all things growing or living in the land belong each to themselves. Tom Bombadil is the master." Okay, I'm confused. And then she goes saying that no one has ever caught old Tom walking in the forest, wading in the water, blah blah blah, but isn't that what happened? They caught him. And when Frodo and Tom were talking about this same point, Tom said, well, maybe it was just fate, but he kind of doesn't believe in fate. I don't know how they said it, but it's like suggestion that it wasn't coincidence that everything is going the way it should be going. So yes, Tom Bombadil gets into the house. He acknowledges his wife, I think, right? correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. He kisses his wife and he's like, hey, here's my pretty lady, and he gives her a kiss. He takes the hobbits to their room and he starts talking to them and singing at the same time. I had an errand there, gathering water lilies, green leaves and lilies white to please my pretty lady. The last ere the year's end to keep them from the winter, to flower by her pretty feet till the snows are melted. Each year at the summer's end I go to find them for her, in a wide pool, deep and clear, far down with a window. There they open first in spring, and there they linger latest. By that pool long ago I found the river daughter, fair young goldberry, sitting in the rushes. Sweet was her singing then, and her heart was beating, and that proved well for you, for now I shall no longer go down deep again along the forest water, not while the year is old, nor shall I be passing Old Man Willow's house this side of springtime, not till merry spring, when the river daughter dances down the withy path to bathe in the water. As always with this kind of songs or poem, it's confusing to me because you kind of have to decipher them. It's like a code, it's like a message there, and if you don't pay attention to them, you just lost in the story. So in the song, he references this Willow Man, which nobody knows who he is, including me as a reader. And Frodo asks the logical question, which is, hey, who is this Willow Man? The hobbits and him is like, no, wait till the morning. And yeah, Tom says basically, yes, let's wait till the morning. And he says an interesting phrase, which, this story aside, it's completely true for myself. That is right, now is the time for resting. Some things are ill to hear when the world's in shadow. Fellowship of the Ring book aside, it's so true. I don't know if you guys can relate, but sometimes where we are gathering as a family in my house, my father, my mother, and just the old people, sometimes we end up talking about ghost stories and supposedly true ghost encounters, right? I don't know what it is, but it's not the same thing listening to that story at noon when the sun is at its, highest and brightest and whatever. Completely different story when you're listening to that when everything's dark. You know what I mean? It's like watching a horror movie just before you go to sleep. I feel about them, not listening about, not knowing about this Willow Man just before they go to sleep. But the point is that we don't know if he's bad. We don't know who he is. I didn't know who Tom Bombadil was until like 5 minutes ago. So that's where I left off, where they were about to, go to sleep and just wake up the next day. So let's keep reading. I don't know what to say. This chapter is weird. Tom is dancing, he's running, he's singing, he's like serious. The hobbits are having weird dreams, listening to weird sounds. What's going on?
I don't understand.
There's not like a clear path in this chapter. I am getting lost reading because one chapter we are, having a serious conversation, and then another chapter we are jumping, and then we are serious again, and then we are, what? Whatever. A good point of interest in this chapter is that Frodo keeps having this same dream that he had in one of the chapters we have already read. But it's this weird dream that he's in a tower somewhere and there are dark riders following him. I'm gonna read it to you to see if you can explain this to me in the comments, because in the last chapter no one talked about it and it seems pretty relevant. In the dead night, Frodo lay in a dream without light. Then he saw the young moon rising. Under his thin light there loomed before him a black wall of rock, pierced by a dark arch like a great gate. It seemed to Frodo that he was lifted up, and passing over he saw that the rock wall was a circle of hills, and that within it was a plain, and in the midst of the plain stood a pinnacle of stone, like a vast tower, but not made by hands. On its top stood the figure of a man. The moon, as it rose, seemed to hang for a moment above his head, and glistened in his white hair as the wind stirred it. Up from the dark plain below came the crying of fell voices, and the howling of many wolves. Suddenly, a shadow, like the shape of great wings, passed across the moon. The figure lifted his arms, and a light flashed from the staff that he wielded. A mighty eagle swept down and bore him away. The voices wailed and the wolves jammered. There was a noise like a strong wind blowing, and on it was borne the sound of hoofs, galloping, galloping, galloping from the east. Black riders, thought Frodo as he wakened, with the sound of the hoofs still echoing in his mind. He wondered if he would ever again have the courage to leave the safety of these stone walls. Now that I read it again, it's not the same dream as the one on the previous chapters that I questioned too, but because I think the last dream had a white tower involved, this one doesn't. But still, where are these dreams coming from? Are they coming from him having the ring in his possession, or does the Dark Shadow have something to do with it? Throughout the whole night, besides Frodo's dream, throughout the whole night, they were all listening to weird noises. Tom said that inside the house was safe, nothing would happen to them, but it's weird, it's bizarre. Guys, I don't know what to say. It's like we're in fairyland. We are in a fairy story that it's just, I mean, I guess this whole thing is a fairy story, but look, this whole Tom Bombadil chapter is confusing the living out of me. I'm 100% honest. I don't even know what to say.
I understand nothing.
They were all listening to weird noises through all the night. Apparently, Tom waked them up very early and he started telling them some stories about weird. Look how weird this is. Suddenly, Tom's talk left the woods and went leaping up the young stream, over the bubbling waterfalls, over pebbles and worn rocks, and among small flowers, enclosed grass, and wet crannies, wandering at last onto the downs. They heard of the great barrows, and the green mounds, and the stone rings upon the hills, and in the hollows among the hills. Sheep were bleating in flocks, green walls and white walls rose. There were fortresses on the heights. Kings of little kingdoms fought together, and the young sun shone like fire on red metal of their new and greedy swords. I mean, he's talking of so many different things that don't correlate with one another, and I'm getting lost. I'll tell you this last point and I'll finish the chapter because I'm getting frustrated with this character. I think it was Frodo who asks, "Who are you, master?" And Tom's answer is, again, just bizarre. Don't know if he's God or what is he, because look at his answer. What? Said Tom, sitting up, and his eyes glinting in the gloom. Don't you know my name yet? That's the only answer. Tell me, who are you, alone, yourself, and nameless? But you are young, and I am old, eldest than I am. Mark my words, my friends. Tom was here before the river and the trees. Tom remembers the first raindrop and the first acorn. He made paths before the big people, and he saw little people arriving. He was here before the kings and the graves and the barrow widths. When the elves passed westward, Tom was here already. Before the seas were bent, he knew the dark under the stars when it was fearless, before the Dark Lord came from outside. Okay, he basically was there before the universe began, okay? Is he God? So around this part, I left off. I'll finish the chapter because I only have like 1.5 pages left. So let's keep reading. I don't know if I should be surprised, excited, confused, mad, sad. I don't understand Tom Bombadil. I mean, he's a magician, he's a wizard, he's God, he's everything. Because now, apparently, I just finished a chapter, it says that Frodo told him a lot of shit that he shouldn't be talking about because Gandalf told him that, this should be confidential stuff and, that he should be careful, especially with the ring. And now Frodo is talking everything about the ring to this man or whatever he is that he doesn't know. Frodo is kind of in a enchantment of some kind. It's kind of Frodo can't stop himself from telling these things to Tom Bombadil. It got me when Tom said to Frodo, "Show me the precious ring." Knowing everything that has happened, I wouldn't show anything to Tom Bombadil. I mean, I wouldn't. How can I say this? Frodo is in this situation because of the ring. How can you just be so friendly with someone that, yes, he has given you food and shelter and everything, but you don't know him. You don't know how much you can trust him. You know what I mean? I'm sure Tom is a very good guy, but still, everything changed when, look, again, I don't know what to think. Show me the precious ring. Frodo, to his own astonishment, drew out the chain from his pocket and, unfastening the ring, handed it at once to Tom. It seemed to grow larger as it lay for a moment on his big brown-skinned hand. Then suddenly he put it to his eye and laughed. For a second the hobbits had a vision, both comical and alarming, of his bright blue eye gleaming through a circle of gold. Then Tom put the ring round the end of his little finger and held it up to the candle light. For a moment the hobbits noticed nothing strange about this. Then they gasped. There was no sign of Tom disappearing. Tom laughed again and then spun the ring in the air, and it vanished with a flash. Frodo gave a cry, and then Tom leaned forward and handed it back to him with a smile.
What? What is that even?
Everything is bizarre right now. I don't know what's going on. Obviously, Frodo is skeptical that this is the same ring. Tom could have done some weird shit, magical stuff, and given him a false ring. Controversial because, yes, Frodo should have never put the ring on because Gandalf is so scared about this that he shouldn't have put the ring on, but he did because he wanted to see if this was the actual ring and not some fake that Tom gave him, right? Of course, the ring was the right one and everything, but I don't know. He's trusting Tom Bombadil, and I don't know if he's God or a hobbit or a man. He was there before the origins of the universe. So what can I say, guys? This was this chapter. I think next chapter we're still with Tom Bombadil because they haven't left Tom. They're still at his house. They're eating a lot, and time is passing by like it's nothing. Next chapter is chapter 8, Fog on the Barrow Downs. Please help me in the comments explaining me what Tom is, because I feel I couldn't even enjoy this chapter very much because it confused everything in me about the story. Because why didn't the ring affect him? He put the ring on. He put it on the top of his little finger. That's enough for him to, become invisible. Didn't happen. He laughed. I know he's not the maker, but it's as if he was the maker and he knew what everything was. And yeah, I know this shit. Take it back. I don't know what to think. So with that note, I'll just see you in the next chapter. Bye.